All right. All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Be Anxious for Nothing, how to overcome anxiety. And this is spirit, soul, and body, right? How to overcome anxiety, spirit, soul, and body. So emotions are valid, but they're not permanent. They change. They're changing all the time. So even though a situation, and it might be one of your situations, may feel hopeless, it is not. God always has the last answer. Always has the last. Okay, right. This is, oh, there we go. Okay, so do you know, according to Anxiety and Depression, the Association of America, there are approximately 40 million adults in the United States suffer from anxiety disorders, and every year, and only 36.9, so less than 40% of those have received effective treatment. And 1 out of 8 children also suffer from some type of anxiety disorder. So what we're going to talk about today and over these next 3 days, today we're going to focus on the body. Okay, we're focusing on body because we are triune beings. We are spirit, we are soul, and we are body. And we can say it as we are spiritual beings. We have a soul, and we're housed in the body, which is our temple. And so today we're gonna focus on the body. Tomorrow will be the soul, and Wednesday will be the spirit. Although we're not saying that those parts of us are separate, they're not. They're all integrated. But we are acknowledging every part of us, and that's something that is often left out when we're talking about any of these things, or even when we're going to conventional medicine or even conventional therapy to get treatment for these. Often certain parts of us are left out. So we're going to address every part of us holistically. So we're maximizing the power of faith-based community. So by doing this in this venue, we're maximizing the power of faith-based community, the power of revelation. Know this, that even though we're doing this, and there's a teaching, there's revelation that Holy Spirit is present, and Holy Spirit will be revealing and will be healing and will be ministering to all of us throughout this time. So expect that. Okay, expect that. Even when we're not talking about intervention, even when we're not doing anything, expect that, because that's what Holy Spirit has the freedom to do that. So we do this through understanding. Understanding is really important. God says, his word says, seek wisdom, and with all wisdom get understanding. We're going to be talking about understanding the body as it comes, the body, the brain, the central nervous system when it comes to anxiety. And each of you have made the intentional decision to take action, do something different. So that is the first step, and that's huge, and that's important. That's powerful. Okay, so congratulations to each of you, whether it's for you or whether it's for a family or for a friend, because we all know someone who either is or has struggled with, and many have struggled with it, as we said, 40 million. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone has. That's not, sometimes we hear, oh, everyone struggles with anxiety, or everyone. That's not true. But there is a large percentage. And so we're going to talk about that today. What I want to start with, though, is let's check in and let's measure our levels of anxiety. What I have here is this is a scale. This is a measuring scale that measures anxiety. It's called the GAD. And so I want you to look at this scale and just look at each question and just kind of answer on the scale, like from 0 to 7. There's 7 items. They answer whether it's a little bit, 0, none, or 10, very much intense. Okay, from 0 to 7. I'm sorry. So first question: are you feeling nervous, anxious, or on edge? Where would you say that is? And you're answering it in regards to having experienced these symptoms over the past 2 weeks. So you're answering it on over a 2-week period. Okay, so second one, not being able to stop or control worrying. Have you had times of not being able to stop or control worrying?
Lisa, is this from 0 to 3? Because it says 0, not at all, 3, nearly every day.
Oh, yeah, yes, it is. You're right.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Thanks for clarifying that, Joy.
Can you repeat the first one real quick? I just got on, sorry.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So the first one is feeling nervous, anxious, or on edge. And it should be on the screen. You guys should, hopefully you guys can see that on the screen too. But so we're answering this over the past 2 weeks from 0 to 3. 0, not at all. 3, nearly every day. There's 7 items. So go ahead and, well, I'll go ahead and read them just in case some people can't see it as well. Then 2, not being able to stop or control worrying. 3, worrying too much about different things. 4, having trouble relaxing. And you can kind of do this quickly, so don't think too much about it. We know anxiety is with a lot of energy up in the head area, so don't think too much about it. Just kind of go with what comes first. So having trouble relaxing is 4. 5 is being so restless that it's hard to sit still. 6, becoming easily annoyed or irritable. 7, feeling afraid if something awful might happen. This is a common scale used. And so just check in there and see where you are. And this is just more for a self thing. And we'll do this also at the end. And then at the end of the 3 days as well. Okay. Is it okay to go on from that? Everybody got those? Okay. All right. So what we'll cover today, what is anxiety? What are the different types of anxiety? What causes anxiety? How does anxiety impact us, spirit, soul, and body? What to do about it at the body level? And like I said, today we're focusing on the body level. And towards the end, we'll do a couple. I think Joy's going to lead us through an exercise. And then we'll also do another body up, because today the emphasis is on the body. So this is what we're going to cover today. Okay, so first, overcoming worry and busyness. Now, Philippians 4:6 says this. It says, don't be pulled in different directions or worried about a thing. Be saturated in prayer throughout each day, offering your faith-filled requests before God. With overflowing gratitude, tell him every detail of your life. Then God's wonderful peace that transcends human understanding will make the answers known to you through Jesus Christ. He tells us that we can be anxious for nothing, and invites us to that. Now, anxious, I have this down here, anxious. It says, don't be pulled in different directions. The body and the mind can be pulled in different directions. And so the overactive body can lead to an overactive mind, and an overactive mind can lead to an overactive body or underactive, right? So the cycle of overactivity, and we know that we live in a very active and often overactive culture where many of us are very, very busy. And the culture and busyness is actually often, people have a lot of times people have kids, or kids are in like what 3 4 different kids and different sport, running, constantly going from here to there, not often having a built-in time of rest. And so this busyness can be an example of how things can be pulled, how we can be pulled in different directions, which can cause also forms of anxiety. So let's talk about that. So what is anxiety? What is anxiety and what is its function? Because, a lot of times we think of anxiety, we think of all bad. We think bad. Oh my gosh, anxiety, that's bad. But here's the thing. Anxiety, just like every other emotion, right? And any other thing, it does have a function, and it can serve a good function. It can. So anxiety is a signal. Think of it as it's a signal or a smoke alarm that something is wrong. Something needs to be addressed. Or that maybe there is danger. Now, the something is wrong, it can be an emotional thing that's wrong. It could be a social thing. It could be something socially is wrong. It could be physical. It could be spiritual. As far as why the signals, that the smoke. So now smoke alarms. If a house is on fire and smoke is coming, and smoke is coming out, right? Smoke actually leads the fire, right? So people see the smoke a lot of times before they see the fire. But do the firemen go and just get rid of the smoke and leave? Hopefully not, right? They go after to find, okay, there is smoke, something behind that smoke. Let's find this smoke. And that's anxiety. Something's wrong. It prepares us. It can prepare us for action. It can drive us to do important things, right? The signal can drive you to do important things. But the signal that I believe that pretty much just about always anxiety is signaling is that there is some type of disconnection. And the disconnection should be some type of disconnection. And that could be a disconnection often, because I believe, again, God designed our bodies. He designed every part of us. And he designed us to always be moving in the rhythm of relationship with him according to our design. And our design is to be in relationship with him. Our design is to be in relationship with ourselves, and our design is to be in relationship with one another.
So, Lisa, are you saying that if we're in anxiety, and this is just if we're in anxiety, we're in some way disconnected from God at that point?
Well, I'm just saying that these are all possibilities, right?
Uh-huh.
So yes, I believe that anxiety is a signal. It can be a signal that, yeah, there is some disconnection somewhere. And we're going to talk more too about some of the biochemicals. But yeah, so a signal, so which often the signal, right? When our body is telling something's off, something's wrong. Because when we're in connection with God, even when there is something going on, when we're in relationship connection with God, he will let us know, right? The Spirit of God will let us know this is how this is what's off, this is what's going on, and this is how we can restore this. This is how we restore. We were designed for peace. We were designed to be in a state of homeostasis, which is peace, except for when we're truly in danger. If there is a tiger who's chasing me, no, my system needs to be out of peace, and my system needs to be activated, and I need to be mobilized to fight, run, or freeze. So these signals that go off often also leads to, and it can be there can be several reasons why the signal's going off, right? So there can be lies embedded in the system, lies embedded in the system that can cause it, that can cause overthinking, right? Worrying. And it's a call, because even if we don't know what it is, it's a call to say, pause, reconnect. As he says in Psalm 46:10, be still and know that I'm God. It can also be a signal that there's unresolved trauma, that there are things that are unresolved. It may be things, it may not just be trauma, but just things that are unresolved that we haven't been paying attention to, that maybe have been suppressing, maybe just, ignoring or denying. And so these are some of the signals. So every message that we get, our body is a form of a messenger for us, right? And so any symptom that comes up, we can take it as a form of communication, as a messenger, and listen to it, or we can stifle it and say, be quiet. I got to get rid of this. Just give me something, right? So these are just some of the potential purposes, right, of anxiety, and some things that we can do. So we want to always definitely pay attention to those. So I want to give an overview also of the central nervous system. Okay, just an overview. So the central nervous system is it's the body control center, and that includes, and that consists of, again, the sympathetic system, the parasympathetic. I'm just going to do a quick overview: the sympathetic system and the parasympathetic system. And I want to say this, that these our belief systems and the function of the system is often developed from 0 to 7, because that's when we're in that state of developing our belief system. So kids from 0 to 7 are the environment. So the parents, their experiences, the messages that we're receiving, they're interpreting everything that's happening from that 0 to 7, and from whatever their understanding of what that everything is happening, that is embedding in the nervous system and belief systems. Okay, there's two teams. There's a couple teams on this nervous system. There's a sympathetic team, and you can think of that as the engine, and that's the one that takes care of it's the autonomic nervous system that takes care of all the automatic things, and that's the one that revs us up. And there's a parasympathetic, and you can think of that as kind of like the brakes. And there's also the vagus nerve, and that's the long nerve that runs through and pretty much touches every organ, and that's what harmonizes. It's important, again, that I think it's helpful when we understand these things, because we're going to also understand how anxiety impacts these systems, and how when we're talking about interventions and helping these, we can be understanding and knowing how we're impacting these different systems, but also how anxiety is impacting these different systems. Okay. Now, the emotional center has its own region of the brain. Okay, it has its own region, and that's the limbic system. And the limbic system, and these are the parts also that are the most impacted by anxiety. So The limbic system includes, and these are the main parts that are impacted also by anxiety. And these are the things that are the amygdala, the hippocampus. I would say the amygdala is the part, it's often considered the fear center. It's the part of the brain where, and it really, it's the fear center. It's the job is to keep us alive. It's about survival. So it's really adaptive, because it wants to keep us alive. So that's the fight, flight, or freeze. The hippocampus is where the memory is. That's the memory. The hypothalamus is that's another control center. That's another messenger that sends messages to the whole body. And the thalamus for the senses, it handles most of our emotional responses. And then the prefrontal cortex is the part where the logic and the reasoning is. And that actually integrates the emotional things that happens with the rest of with the communication system. Okay. So I'm gonna mention, talk about the different types quickly. We're just going to briefly talk about the different types of anxiety, because there's not just one type of anxiety. And these are according to like the Diagnostic Statistic Manual, and that's what's used for diagnosis of anxiety. So, so first, panic disorder. I'm going to talk about also what's happening in the brain in these areas when this is going on. So the panic disorder actually usually has excessive norepinephrine and less GABA. GABA is a neurotransmitter that actually slows down. It helps to reduce the excitement in the brain. So that helps to inhibit too much excitement. So a person with panic disorder may be having too much norepinephrine can be causing them to feel more jittery and panic. Phobia is another type, and that's when there's a specific fear to something. It can be a fear of spiders. It can be a fear of heights. And this can be an imbalance of serotonin, and that's what regulates the mood and emotions. And this can cause excessive, so this would be being excessively afraid of something beyond what the typical person would be, okay? Some people might say that I'm excessively afraid of spiders. Or insects. So whatever it is, and it's phobia is a specific thing, okay? It's a specific area. Now, this is and I want to. This was a study done where there were 4 groups of people, and this is on the phobias. 4 groups of people who were afraid of spiders, and they put tarantulas in a cage and exposed them to the tarantula in the cage. And there were 4 different things that they had that the groups of people do. Okay. Group 1, they said, label what you're feeling. Just label what you're feeling. Group 2, they said, just make general observations about what you see. Group 3, they said, just focus on something irrelevant. And it didn't have to be connected at all. And group 4, they said, don't say anything at all. Which group do you think did the best as far as because then after they did this, then they had them come back. After they had them do that, they had them come back and they rated again how intense the fear was. Which group do you think had the biggest impact as far as improvement in response? Good. Yes, I see Kathy's finger up to number one. Are you saying you're number one, or are you saying that? Yes, it was group one. Label. So what does this tell us? This does, and this is something that research says it is healthy and it is helpful for us to label, to know. And I think that's, again, that's part of connecting with ourself and how we're feeling and how, and noticing it. So not being afraid of identifying and connecting. Oh, I'm feeling fear. This is, I'm afraid of that. This feels, and then even noticing how it feels in our body, because that helps us to stay connected. Sometimes when fears can be overwhelming, especially if we're too afraid to acknowledge it, we can dissociate. The body can dissociate, and that can be an adaptive in the time, but it can also be maladaptive over time, because then we can disconnect. So far we have those two. Now, generalized anxiety is also another type of anxiety, and this is like overactive worry. This is like worry, kind of almost unable to turn off that worry button. And people with generalized anxiety tend to have a enlarged or larger amygdala. Their amygdala is active. We're going to talk about how to get the amygdala back down to and manage that amygdala so it's not enlarged. And we're not going to just talk about it. We're going to do some things to that. So, and so there is usually, with the generalized anxiety, there's usually an imbalance in GABA. So so glutamate is the other neurotransmitter that causes reactions that are stronger to things. So there's more glutamate and less GABA a lot of times. And so causes a stronger reaction to external stimuli, to things like it might be to a dog, so whatever it is that they're afraid of, there's stronger reactions to that. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, that is usually when an event happened. It's the body's response. It's our body or central nervous system's response to an event or to a memory. And that's when there's too much excitatory. Okay, so it's information, too much in the hippocampus, and the hippocampus is where the memory is. So a lot of times that's something that's been stored there, because when an event happened and our body, and we respond to it, and we know, okay, wait, that was a threat. It felt like a threat to us or to the central nervous system. Then it makes meaning of it to protect us from that. And we'll talk about that more tomorrow, about how that makes meaning, how the body and central nervous system makes meaning to protect us and creates associations. And so that's so PTSD is when there's a strong emotional response and the logical brain cannot process it. It's overwhelming. That's trauma. It's overwhelmed by the information that's coming in, that stimuli that's coming in, and it doesn't know what to do with it. So it creates an alarm, a smoke alarm. Social anxiety is, again, usually it's when there's a fear of social situations, or an angst about social situations. And in the brain, what this is when there's images of faces leads to extra activity in the amygdala. So so relationships, and even the thought of that and faces causes extra activity in the amygdala. So it causes the amygdala to be triggered and to go into that fight, flight, or freeze. Even just the thought of it, right? The anticipation of it. So how does it impact the brain? How does anxiety impact the brain and the parts of the brain? First, you guys can see that there's a perceived threat. Okay, now there's a perceived threat. So, for example, I'm going to use the example. I was actually, I'll use it for me. I was bitten by a dog when I was a kid. Okay. And so, not, it wasn't horrible. It was, it wasn't bad, but it was still, I was bitten by a dog. So after that, a dog could be, and there was when I would see a dog until I was reprogrammed, but when I would see a dog, that there was a perceived threat. And that perceived threat, that the thalamus in the front part sends that message to, and the amygdala immediately. So once we've experienced something, the amygdala actually responds and goes and searches out the environment before we're even there. So it goes ahead and searches out an environment. So that's why it's a subconscious response. It's not even something that we're consciously aware of. Once we've experienced a certain thing that was fear, that was scary or traumatic, so it goes ahead and it searches out and tells us, watch out. And it sends those signals to the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus sends the signals to the rest of the body. It says, watch out. Alarm goes, alarm goes off. And heart rate increases, blood pressure increases, digestion kind of shuts down, goes down, because it needs, the body is saying, we need all of the resources to deal with this threat. The immune system is suppressed.
So if you had a traumatic experience, and your brain wants to protect you, does it sometimes block out that experience to keep you safe? Does that make sense?
Yes. So that would be that the hippocampus part. So the hippocampus, I'll talk about the parts of the brain. So that the amygdala enlarges, right? And and it does that because it needs to be alert and aware, especially when there's been a lot of trauma. But when it's fear, it enlarges. So the amygdala, the hippocampus is the memory that shrinks. And so that's why sometimes when there's been, when there is anxiety, it can affect our memory, or where there's been trauma, there's kind of like, oh, well, I don't know if I remember. And some people have very little memory of their childhood or certain times in their childhood, because that hippocampus shrinks. Now, when so the hippocampus does shrink, then the prefrontal cortex, right? The prefrontal cortex, which is the logic, the reasoning, the part that helps us to reason and to know, okay, no, you're safe. That actually goes offline because the amygdala will hijack. And then we got cortisol and norepinephrine, which are the stress hormones, right, being released. The cortisol gives us, and it gives us the energy to mobilize and to do what we might have to do, right, to get out of the situation. The problem is, if we're not really in a threatening situation, and this is the problem with anxiety, that the body and the brain can be in this perpetual high alert, hypervigilant, compromising the immune system, compromising the prefrontal concentration, the ability to concentrate, and memory, the hippocampus, the ability to remember things. So a lot of times people are having some of these issues. These are symptoms affecting sleep as well, which also if your sleep is affected, then often the memory and concentration and focus will be impacted. So staying in these states for long periods of time can cause all kinds of issues in the body system, right? So that's why, so yes, it can suppress the memory, because again, that's adaptive in a sense, because if the brain will only allow us to remember, to see, to acknowledge, to know what it feels we can handle. A child sometimes cannot handle remembering specific details of abuse. So it'd go, okay, nope, we can't, this is too much. This is gonna, let's go ahead and put this, compartmentalize, and let's separate this and put this over there. Another thing happens. Oh, nope, this is too much. Overwhelmed, we're overwhelmed. Let's go ahead, let's shut this down and put this over there. So all these, and this is a subconscious thing, right? This is not like a conscious thing, this is a subconscious thing. Problem is then later on, it starts, if it continues to be suppressed throughout life, then it starts to come out. It can start to come out sideways in other ways, through dreams, and this is where, through nightmares, or you know, through the body. There's also different ways if we're not, if it's not eventually addressed. Okay. So that's okay. So now, yeah. Good. So what questions do you have? We'll do a questions, and then we're going to talk about now, as far as intervention. I want to talk about this real quick. This is not on the slide, but there's tools called, there's bottom up and top down techniques. Okay. Bottom up is basically techniques that change the brain using our body. Now that, in other words, we use our body. That exercise is one of those, right? Exercise is actually a good, not stopping there, but it's a good intervention to help the body with anxiety and even help the brain. So bottom up usually can help change your brain, not the upper part of the brain, but they can help this subcortical, the lower parts of the brain. It reduces, when we use bottom up, which we're going to do a couple of those today, and Joy's going to lead us in one for sure. We have there's less activation in the fear center, in the amygdala. When we use bottom up, it reduces the physical triggers, how strong we react in the amygdala, right? That's the messenger. So it reduces that. It also reduces, when we use the body, it reduces our stress response, and it can increase the relaxation. It also decreases hypervigilance and feelings of being on guard, because it's also energy. Anxiety a lot of times is a lot of extra energy. And so the physical activity, the exercise, can help to release that energy. Now, we have another part of the brain that is the interoceptive, right? And that is our internal senses. That's our ability to know when I'm hungry or I'm tired, but also the emotions. And so again, being in touch with that. So when we use the body, it reduces the intensity of that. It helps to regulate that interoception center as well. It reduces, so the more in touch and in tune we are with that, with our body, this is why, again, being still, it can help us to reconnect with that body. We can be disconnected and disconnect easily from our body. So it reduces disassociation. Disassociation is when we just disconnect. We can disconnect from our mind, we can disconnect from our body, right? We could be here physically, and I could be in another state, or even in the past. I can be in the present. I can be in a complete another place in my mind. So because anxiety basically is, I meant to say this before, but anxiety is when we actually go ahead. It's going ahead to the future and creating all kinds of images that aren't true. Creating things that could cause fear and worry. So it is using the 2 Corinthians 10, which I'm going to actually read it, but it's using the vain imagination. And what I call a vain imagination is it's an imagination that's not real, right? It's when we use. When we use our imagination that's sanctified to create things that aren't true, and that in most cases will never happen. But it's focusing on those things. So I'm going to read the 2 Corinthians 10. I think this is the thing here. It says, for although we live in this natural realm, we don't wage a military campaign employing human weapons, using manipulation to achieve our aims. Instead, our spiritual weapons are energized with divine power to effectively dismantle the defensive behind which people hide. We can demolish every deceptive fantasy that opposes God. Every thought that we have that opposes God, and tomorrow we'll get more into the thoughts, but every thought that we have that opposes God is a fantasy. It is not real. And break through every arrogant attitude that is raised up in defiance of the true knowledge of God. We capture like prisoners of war every thought and insist that it bow in obedience to the Anointed One. Since we are armed with such dynamic weapons, we stand ready to punish any trace of rebellion and choose complete obedience. So that is, so the other thing the body does, and back to the body and connection, is when we do bottom up instead of top down, these are bottom up, these are using the body, it can increase the feelings of safety. See, the body needs to feel, it helps the body when it feels connected to the ground, to the earth. And that's why the grounding stuff can be so helpful, even touching the or with our feet on it, that helps the body to feel safe. It reduces fear. And it actually increases our ability to deal with negative memories. Okay, so these are some of the benefits of the bottom up. We're going to do one bottom up. I'm going to lead you through one bottom up activity, and then Joy will, then we'll give it to you, Joy. All right. Okay. Now this is called, and some of you may have experienced this. This is called autogenic training, and this is a bottom up because this is where we are going to focus on the body and use the body to help relax. And what you'll notice, and so well, I'm not going to tell you what you'll notice. Well, I'll ask you afterwards, and you can tell you can tell us what you notice. But what the goal of this is to focus on our body to, like, in just, if we're not connected, it will reconnect and to be centered and one with the body. And that, even that alone, will helps to relax. We're also giving the body instructions. Now, we're giving the body instructions. That's a really powerful and important thing. Our body listens to us. Our words are operating. We're an operating system. So we have an operating system. That's our words. And so when we're speaking, whether we're speaking directly to our body, or we're speaking to others, or we're saying things out loud, our body is listening to us and hearing and responding. So we'll start to train it. So what I want you to do is go ahead and relax. And what you're going to do is I'm going to say phrases, and you're going to just say the phrases that I'm going to say, you're going to say them, instructing the body. You're going to say them to yourself in your mind 3 times in a quiet, thoughtful way. And then you'll pause and you'll notice, and you'll focus on the part of the body and on your feelings for whatever part we're focusing on, okay? So So first I want you to just notice your breath. And just say 3 times, I feel quite quiet. I am easily relaxed. 3 times. And I want you to put your attention on your right arm. Just notice and just give your right arm attention and notice. And then just say 3 times, my right arm feels heavy and relaxed. Put your attention on your left arm. And 3 times, say my left arm feels heavy and relaxed. 3 times to yourself. Notice your right and your left. And now both. Just say my right arm and my left arm feel heavy and relaxed and relaxed. Just notice if there's a difference between your right and left. Just notice the state of your arms. Go to your right leg and just notice and give your right leg some attention. Just give it some energy. Focus on it. Notice. Say my right leg feels heavy and relaxed. Three times. And put your attention on your left leg. And say my left leg feels heavy and relaxed. Three times. And you'll say my arms and legs feel heavy and relaxed and relaxed. And slowly come back. Good. And I just want to hear from a few of you. What did you notice?
Well, I had to kill my video because I was yawning so much and I didn't want to lift up my arm to have good manners. So I turned out that video. I just right when you started, I just started yawning and I didn't feel tired. Um, my eyes were watering, so I think I was really just I don't know, kind of in a good way, kind of like settling into a puddle, like puddling into the chair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, puddling into a chair.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a good.
And my palms felt really warm.
Mm, mm,
Yeah.
good. That's so you were giving that some energy, right? Good. Thank you, Julie.
Mhm.
Stay in the
Well,
puddle.
as you probably know, Lisa, you do know, not probably, I had the knee replacement. So when we did the right leg, I felt like sensations in my knee. And it felt like this. But then as I kept repeating it, that went away and it felt like lead after that, like comfortable, but just heavy.
Mhm. Mm. Okay. Okay, good. So you're saying that at first it was you felt sensations there, and
Mhm.
that is what happens, right? When we give those parts attention and then it got heavy. So the body responded, right, to the commands that we're giving it. And that's part of it. Good. Thank you, Yvonne, for sharing. Maybe one or two more.
I can share. Yeah, I felt kind of like Julie too. I was yawning. I didn't turn off my video though, but my eyes were closed. I was like, everybody else's eyes are closed. They can't see me yawning, but yeah, I felt like, wow, I could just stay here forever. I felt like, hope she doesn't stop this. So yeah, it was really, really something. That was great. I could tell the difference, the shift. I felt the shift of just peace and quiet. And
Good.
so,
Good.
great.
Good. Yeah, good. Thank you, Jane. And that's again, we just did the upper parts, but this we can go through that. Sometimes we go through that through the whole body, right? So it's going down to the stomach and the hips and and then the whole body is, and it's engaging all of the body. So good. Thank you, Jane. One more. More person want to share? Did you notice? Anybody struggle with it anyway? I think, Kathy, are you trying to say something? No? Okay, I thought you. Okay. I hope everybody else is not asleep. So.
I think Kathy's trying again.
Oh, there we go. I got
Oh.
unmuted. I'm just on my phone and sometimes it's a struggle. It was a struggle for me and I felt really frustrated about it because I've had this electrical current going through my body for 7 years. And I was so wishing, I was so in the exercise and really, feeling my arms get heavy and stuff, but I just had hip replacement surgery, so I'm kind of wrapped in ice and pain stuff going on. So I was just trying to go up and over that. And I just felt this it's a clash of faith and what's really going on in my body. And it's been a struggle because I have so much faith for healing and have tried to do many things, and I'm in the process of many healing modalities and just can't find the off switch. So it's very hard to relax when your body is electrified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That definitely sounds like, definitely, I can see that. That definitely sounds like a clash.
Yeah.
Electric.
Yeah. Electric and peace, because
relaxation.
I go up and over it every day and I try not to focus on it, but I think it's sometimes my anxiety, this is at the root of the anxiety that I experience sometimes, I think, because it won't turn off. So, and pardon me, I really don't want to be Debbie Downer in any way, because I so appreciate, just getting that focused and that talking to my body. I'm just looking forward to the day where it actually lines up.
Me too. No,
Thank
and that's
you.
good, Kathy. Thank you for sharing, because again, it's not even just noticing, like it doesn't all have to feel good or just be the good side, right? Just noticing, like, oh, there's this
Yeah.
tension in my body, or there's this battle, there's this discomfort because one part of me, my mind wants to relax, but then my body is saying no, and there's this, so just even noticing and being aware, that's being present. You had to be present in order to even notice that, and that's a big part of this, which we'll talk more about that tomorrow. But good, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, we're going to pause there, and then we're going to let Joy do her exercise, and then the last probably 15 minutes we'll do any questions questions, answers that you guys may have. So,
You guys,
um,
now you have to get up.
okay, good. Good. That's
Those
good.
of you, Kathy and Yvonne, if you're in the seated position, that's fine too. We are going to do some grounding exercises that Lisa was talking about, but
1 minute.
uh,
Oh, good. I'm sorry. I was just going to ask Sally to put you on the line. Good job,
one
Sally. You did it before.
one of the exercises that we're going to do, and you can continue to do, and Yvonne, I think you're already doing it, is just swaying. Swaying is our instinctive soothing mechanism. So when you think about even picking up a crying baby, what do? We sway, we rock. So if you can't stand up and do some of these other exercises with us, then, and that's for anybody. If you can get up, I'm going to ask you to get up. So we're going to stand up. And all these movements, it is like a release. It's a release of anxiety and tension in the body. And we're just making more space, right? More space for things and energy that we want to bring in. So let's just take a deep breath in. Take a deep breath in and exhale. And when you exhale, I want you to think about pulling the energy from the ground up, all the way up over your head, and then exhale all the way down. So just do that a couple more times. And I want you to imagine bringing your breath up from the soles of your feet, right? All the way up through your head, all the way up through your head and all the way down. So as Lisa was talking about, grounding helps keep us in the present, helps get us to a place where we feel safe and we feel connected to the earth. So let's just take the feet a little wider. I don't know if you can see me as good as I'd like, but just take the feet a little wider, and we're just gonna kind of do a little squat here. Just squat down and just imagine that the ground is your safe place, okay? So much of our time we're spent in our heads and accumulating a lot of tension in our chest and in our upper body. That's why a lot of times people say, oh, I just got to get out of my head. I'm so much into my head. My shoulders are tight. There's tension in my chest, and we're living in our minds. So connecting to the floor, we're going to go from living up into the head to bringing all that energy down and releasing anything that's not serving you. So we're taking it from the head and bringing it lower. So from that center of gravity, I don't know if you could see me, but I'm in like a squatted position. My feet are apart. And I want you to think about that you have a weight. You have a weight between your legs, and it's pulling the energy down, okay? And we're just gonna lift a leg up. So I want you to think about every time you lift up your leg and place it down, you're pressing energy deeper into the earth, just deeper into the earth. And it might, maybe you think it looks silly, but don't worry about what it looks like. It's very effective in planting your foot in the ground. Plant it down, allowing your body to get deeper, deeper and deeper into the ground. Now we're going to add a hand movement to that. So you're just going to press down, exhale, exhale, and really just get your voice involved here. You can do a ha, 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 ha. That's it. Good. Release whatever you need to let go of. Strong exhale. Ha. Get it out of your head. Out of your head down into the earth. That's where we're safe. We get our feet on solid ground. Allow yourself to feel your power, your energy, and your strength. And then just pause for a moment. Pause and just breathe. Just feel the energy flowing, right? Our body's like a river. It wants to flow. So do you feel the energy that maybe was stuck in your head now moving into the lower extremities? Just nod if you do. Yes. Okay, good. That's good. Now, we're going to start to shake. So I'm going to shake a leg. Shaking just helps us release a lot of the energy. So maybe the nervous energy, the tension that we might be holding on to, and it's good for our whole body. Shake it out. Shake your legs. Get it into the, now we're just going to kind of like little bump, 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 bump. Get it into the hips. Shake the hips. Shake the chest. Shake the arms. Shake the head. Just shake it off. Shaking is a great way to let go of that tension, anxiety, overthinking in the head, and bring the energy down. Shake, shake, shake. Shake it off. What do you need to shake off? What do you need to shake out? Let it go. What are you ready to release? Let it go. Just let it go. Let those arms go. Shake, shake, shake. Worries going, doubts going, frustrations going. Shake it off. Say, I don't need it in my head. I don't need it in my head. I'm free. I'm free. Let it out. Because when you shake it off, you have room to bring things back in. Then you have room. Before you shake it off, there's no room. Good. Now just take a pause. And here's where we're going to sway. That instinctive movement, nurturing and relaxing. This would be a good place if you had music on to feel the beauty of the music. And we're just going to add some spaciousness now to the sway. Imagine your shoulders are a wave. And you're riding the wave with your body. So we're just creating space here. Opening up to new things. New thoughts. God's thoughts. Things that are true, lovely, pure, right, admirable, excellent, praiseworthy. Yes, open up. Open up. And some of you are already doing this, but now give yourself freedom to move, how your body is calling you to move. Just like that beautiful river flowing. There's no end, no beginning to the movement. Just start moving your body. Just start moving your body. Our bodies are so intelligent. They can grow, they can transform, they can renew. So we just thank the God of this universe for creating these bodies. And we invite all he has for us. We thank you how you created these bodies. Breathe. And then come back into the center. Just bring one hand to your heart. One hand to your belly. And just feel that little light sway. Side to side. Close your eyes and see if you could feel the shift of the energy. Now flowing throughout your entire body. Not stuck. Not stagnant, just in your head or in your chest. But you feel it. You're grounded. You're secure. You are stable. You are standing on the rock. You are immovable. Thank you. Thank you for playing. Nice job.
Yay, thank you, Joy.
You're welcome.
That was awesome.
You're welcome.
Ah, man, yeah, I felt like my head feels so much lighter.
Good.
Right? Anybody else had feel lighter? What'd you guys notice? Couple people, what'd you notice? And also, oh wait, the recording's paused. Does it pause? What'd you guys notice?
It's not paused.
Okay.
I just felt really joyful, you know, just moving and swaying. I'm like, wow, this is, yeah, I can't wait to do this more. Yeah, and just the grounding, the whole grounding thing. It's just really helpful.
Yes.
Really helpful. Thanks, Joy.
No problem.
So I've been feeling a heaviness because of something I'm worried about, and it felt like this was dragging me out of it,
Yeah.
like forcing me to come out because I was moving like that.
That's good. I love the way you put that, Sabina. Yeah, it was kind of like, say, come on, come out and play. Stop. You know, here's an example that yesterday I was talking to Ann Hansen. I asked her if I could share this. She was okay with it. And Lauren's mom, some of you guys know her, but she was sharing that when she went through a very traumatic time. So this is just reinforcing again what we were just doing and what Joy was leading us through, and the power of movement. But she went through it was a day very, very traumatic, right? And she just didn't know what to do. She was overwhelmed, didn't know what to do, right? That response, that trauma response, and she just started to dance, right? Like David danced. She danced. She said she danced and she screamed. She shouted she like yelled and danced. And I said, how long did you do that? She said she did it for about an hour and a half. Now,
Oh,
before
wow.
she did that, and she said she was sweating. She said, I mean, she was releasing, right? Dancing is a form of release, just like the shaking that you just did. It's a form of release. But she danced and she shouted. That's another form of release. That's letting it out, letting it go. And she did that for an hour and a half. And she said, she went, it's not there anymore. It's gone. She felt so free. She used, now that's a form, that's a bottom up, that's releasing trauma and a lot of energy through the body. Dancing is powerful, especially dancing for God, but any kind of shaking and dancing is powerful, right? So
What really got me into praise dancing was when I would get very anxious. And there was a time in my life too where I would feel frozen. I would retreat, I would isolate to a specific place in my house, and I would feel frozen, like I couldn't get. And that's when I was like, he was like, move, get up, move. And that's when I really start flowing with the Holy Spirit and praising. And that movement forced me to get out of, I was so in my head. It was like my body, I was stuck like right here. It was like nothing was moving it was almost like I felt shaky, like my legs felt shaky. So I'm saying this from experience, just that movement, that flowing, especially when you've got music on and you're praising him and you're flowing with, you could feel, and even using your sight, things you can see when you're dancing or moving, things you could hear, the beat of the music or whatever. Those, using all our senses, it just gets you out of that place. So I agree with Ann, really helped.
yes. Awesome. Okay, thank you so much, Joy. That was great. That was beautiful. Yay.
You know,
And
I
oh,
have,
go
a-
ahead.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
These movements and segments that Joy does, is there any way to like copy them, just that, and put that on like the YouTube channel? So, you know,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna remember the sequence, but it was really good. But if it was on the channel, then I could just bring it up whenever I wanted to and follow along, if that makes sense.
Well, it is going to be in this video too, but so you'll have that. But
Hmm.
Joy, wanna-
Yeah, I could do something, put together something that's just for these
oh,
kind
yeah.
of movements, and then you guys could share it with the group that's taking the class.
Awesome.
So,
And
Yeah.
yeah, Joy is does Wednesday mornings,
Yes.
9:30 at Kiaga in Barrington does these classes, and it's awesome. So that's
Awesome.
another way. But yes, and then she'll
So when I retire, I can manage that.
yeah.
You can start your YouTube channel, Joy. Saying.
Yeah. Amen. Any questions? Any questions of on anything that we talked about? Questions, comments, concerns, whatever. Jump in. Anybody has questions?
Lisa, I think you said something similar to that tonight, but when I was sharing on the morning scripture call a week or two ago about struggling with my feelings, and I said something like, then I get on myself like, why am I still feeling this way? Why am I still struggling with this? I forgave that person. You said something that's been really powerful. To observe my feelings, but not to judge them.
Mhm.
And I think you said something similar tonight, but I don't know where it is in my notes. But I think sometimes we feel guilty for having feelings.
Mhm.
And I like the way you talked about how feelings are important. I don't know that I just think that's important. I'm looking forward to going back and reading through the notes and watching the video again. But yeah.
Yeah, Julie, that's a really good. I'm glad you brought that up because that is so important. We, whether it's in our culture, and the culture in general, also sometimes in church, whatever, there's sometimes a discouragement, and sometimes even just in the upbringing, depending on how we were raised and the messages that we received. But there's not necessarily always a high value feelings and vulnerability, and so that can be discouraged. So sometimes it can be kind of an automatic response or a habit response, a learned response, which we'll talk about that tomorrow. Conditioned, learned things, and but it can be a learned response to judge ourselves for feeling vulnerable feelings, and to judge and to try to stuff or stifle those or hide them. So when we do that, the important thing to know is that it actually, so whatever we resist, it actually persists. So it gets stronger, especially if we're doing it out of fear. I'm trying to resist something because I'm afraid of acknowledging it or noticing it, it gets stronger. So the best thing, so the highest form of us, the highest part of us is our spirit. And we do have an ego, right? And that's the conscious part. Sometimes the ego, if the ego's driving us, then that's what judges, right? It's the ego that's polarizing, that judges. And so that's wrong. That's right. That's wrong. And that's what doesn't let things get in. That's like the police of our mind. Now, the spirit part of us, though, was designed to observe. We don't have to be afraid, but if we could just observe whatever's coming in, observe the emotion, and without fear, but just observing it, it will actually go. Even the anxiety, we're gonna, just observing whatever it is, the emotion of fear, just observe, go, yeah, I see that. And that's labeling it, right? Observing it and labeling. That's fear. Yeah. That's sadness. Yeah. I'm feeling sad. Watching it, and then it just goes, because we are not our emotions. We are not our thoughts. They can just go by. So yeah, that is important. So thank you for sharing, for bringing that up, Julie.
Thank you.
So we have a couple of minutes. Maybe one more. Is there one more question?
I have a question, Lisa.
Okay.
You had said the hippocampus, when there's fear or anxiety, it shrinks. What happens if there's chronic anxiety? Are there permanent effects to that area?
Good question. That's Lynette, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, there's not. So here's the thing. Here's a very important thing. That's a great question, because it gives an opportunity to answer this. Is that our brain is what's called, now before the 70s, they thought the brain was this couldn't change. Now they found it's neuroplastic. That's neuroplastic. That means it is malleable. There is nothing, even severe, TBI, traumatic brain injuries, can be healed. Our brain is continually fixing and restoring and healing, right? And so we can retrain the mirror. So to answer your question, even with chronic anxiety, and even, there's been damage to the body because of the systems maybe that have been overworking. We can retrain, and this is the important thing. We can rewire and retrain. We're going to talk about that some tomorrow, but rewire and retrain our brain so that the hippo to be restored to homeostasis. And there's ways that we can do that, right? We want to engage the prefrontal cortex. We want to, so there's ways that we can retrain and rewire the brain so that it returns to peace, unless there really is danger. And then it stops when it returns to peace. Then the immune system is restored. It starts functioning and operating the way it was supposed to. The heart rate slows down. We're going to do that. Talk about actually a technique where the heart and the mind line up, and it actually helps to restore and heal the body. So it's not too late, even if it's chronic. But it can take time, right? Because how does the brain rewire? It's with repetition. It's with time. It's like there's some disciplines. But if we do something over and over, even for what they say, 20 to 30 days, if we do it, it will retrain the brain and those systems in the brain to not respond, to not react instead of responding. Does that answer your question, Lynette?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. So there's always hope. God designed our brain
Awesome.
to always be able to recover, pretty much, right? As long as we're still here. Sorry, somebody else was going to say something. No? Okay. So we'll pause right here. So tomorrow we'll be talking about anxiety and the soul, and how programming impacts our brain, but how to rewire, reprogram. We'll talk about some of the EMDR, some tapping, also heart coherent, and Yeah, so that's a few things, a little synopsis of tomorrow, okay? So anxiety in the soul. So thank you all for being here. And we will see you tomorrow. And if you also, if you have any questions or anything that you can send that, you can also send those, or you can just bring them tomorrow. All right?
Awesome. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank
You.
everybody.
That was great.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Awesome.
And thank you, Joy, too.
Yes.